Thank you very much for the kind introduction, Mr. President, the Chairman, esteemed audience. At first, thank you very much for the invitation to come here to this marvelous place and to this exciting community. And let me express my deep gratitude and appreciation, especially to Vinod for his perfect organization. It was a tremendous work. Congratulations. Thank you very much, Vinod. So, on behalf of the European Board of Surgery, best greetings to the esteemed audience, and I would like to introduce the upcoming project of a fellowship program for metabolic and bariatric surgery. But at first, when we talk about a European Board fellowship, we have to define what is Europe. We already heard from Arthur that, well, we know Europe is not a clearly defined continent. It's not defined by geography. It's not defined by countries. It's somewhat defined by culture and history. But we find a huge and vast diversification in ethnics and in religion and in language and also in economics and politics. Well, overall, it's a place where people live and work, and there's, you know it from the media, a very significant migration process into Europe coming from the North African countries and also from the Mediterranean, and we have to take care for this. The European community and the European Union started in 1957 with 6 countries. And what you see here in North Africa as a blue dot, this is Algeria. At that time, Algeria was part of France. And so at that time, an African country was already part in the European community. Meanwhile, the European community has 28 countries and more than 500 million inhabitants. And we can say proudly that it's the largest peacekeeping project in Europe ever. And meanwhile, we have also more candidates for EU membership. The main principles in the EU are the freedom of movement, the freedom of services, and the freedom of labor. And what we share in our legal system is the principle of subsidiarity. And we are regulated by laws and directives, but there's also quite much place for federalism, unfortunately also nationalism, but mainly for particular interests in the member states. Big issue is the situation that we have 25 languages. This is a situation what other communities like the US do not have. We have in all countries in this federalistic system quite a number of national and regional regulations in medicine, because we talk about the medical education. We have, due to the fact that we have this principle of subsidiarity, a process with automatic recognition of diploma, which means, let's say, a general surgeon who has a CCSD for general surgery in Spain may move to Poland and work there as a surgeon. So there were quite a number of complications coming up with the extension and the new countries in the EU, which made it necessary to bring some control into these structures. And the UMS, the Union of European Medical Specialists, is now an official advisory body for the EU. It's an NGO, a non-governmental organization. It's an NPO, it's a non-profit organization. And we have the mandate by the European Commission to work as an advisory board. So there's quite a number of tasks for the UMS. It's to promote the free movement, but it's also harmonization and standardization at the highest level of specialist training, and it's also to take care for the EBSQ process, which is the European Board of Surgery qualification process by facilitating the board examinations and to cooperate with the scientific societies. So two keywords for the processes in the UMS are harmonization and standardization. Harmonization usually meant that we should, it was our task, that we should harmonize the denominations of medical specializations, not based primarily on educational contents, but on the denominations. And this turned out to be, well, it turned out to a non-working process. It's better now what we do, that we switch to standardization, that we pay respect to the fact that we should have good standards, not based exactly on denominations, but more on contents and on training. So the white book for this established process training requirements is the book General Surgery, where we put together our training requirements and where we found the structures for the qualification process leading to the title Fellow of the European Board of Surgery. The qualification process is a two-step process consisting of eligibility and examination. There are clear-cut, precise, and crystal clear structures for this. We have an eligibility committee giving clear rules who is eligible for the application and for the examination process. We have an examination committee taking care for the composition and for the quality of the questions. We have a credential committees if there are problems after the examination. We have also preparatory courses and other quality structures. The concept now is to bring a system with fellowships for transferable competencies. We drew back from the denominations like surgery or these things. We drew back from it because there was a jungle of different names meaning the same, GI and visceral and all these things. And we switched to more honest and clear-cut logbooks, enhancing rotations, but considering all the national peculiarities of the contents. Well, let's say in general surgery, if you do harmonization alone in general surgery, this could mean that you leave quite significant content. In some countries, thyroid surgery is not part of general surgery. So if you do harmonization alone, you will have to omit it. It's the same issue with breast surgery, flexible endoscopy. This is why it is better to switch more to a competence-based concept. Contents, competences, and qualification. These are the keywords for our modular concept in providing surgical qualifications. On the left side, you see the already established qualifications, and on the other side, the project, the running project. This year, we introduce esophagus, cardia, and stomach surgery, and there are also some other projects like emergency, metabolic, minimal invasive, and others. And what we are talking about now is the ongoing project to introduce the qualification for a European Board Fellowship in Metabolic and Bariatric Surgery. By the end of March, we have our meeting in Berlin, and this will be the time to introduce at first the working group and later the division and the board of metabolic and bariatric surgery within the UMS section of surgery. Most of the basic things are already done, like the formal things, putting up the statutes and all these things. What we need now is to fill this framework of structures with the foundation committee to define what should be in these transferable competences. This will include to produce a syllabus, also to produce a catalog with knowledges and skills, and in the next step, when this is done, to clearly define the eligibility criteria for the examination and to conduct the examination itself. So the first step is the definition of what should be in this subspecialization, as it has been called. We call it now transferable competence. It is the content of training, it's the learning outcome, it's the recognition also of training institutions, and it's the list of requirements, which includes the theoretical knowledge, it also includes the practical and clinical skills, it also includes the logbook with numbers in certain categories, also providing provisional rules for compensations if, let's say, one center has more, let's say, gastric bypasses and the others has more sleeves, and then to produce the eligibility criteria following the basic EBS, European Board of Surgery, regulations. This means also that we can include in the logbook credit points for publications, for congresses, for courses, and also have the possibility to create honorary diploma for specialists in the field of metabolic and bariatric surgery who will not go through the whole examination process because they are renowned experts and have the possibility to receive the honorary fellowship. The examination will follow the basic structures of the European Board of Surgery, which is a combination of a multiple choice test with 100 to 150 multiple choice tests and an osteocircuit with 6 stations. We have to put together the people for the examination committee, and this committee will have full support within the European Board of Surgical Qualifications. So what we can do now in the moment, and what I will cordially bring is an invitation to you all who is interested, and in the coffee break I also found the first esteemed colleagues who are willing to cooperate in this process. Lucky day. So is to find the foundation committee and then immediately start with the definition and the syllabus and with the knowledges and skills, and we have when we can make it to have a basic framework of this by the end of March, we can go through the legal processes within the UMS and could have an examination by 1 year. So cordial invitation to you all. Thank you very much for your interest.
Interesting and a very great approach, because one of the difficulties is having a good standardized definition and exams, especially for bariatric surgery where there's a high problem of complications. I think having a standard will help. And that's what in America also we are toying, and I was discussing in break with you. And one of the difficulties we have is the volume of cases, because there's a strong push to have at least 50 bariatric gastric bypasses before the certificate is awarded. So are you also struggling with something like that, that there should be a certain minimum number of advanced bypass cases?
Well, our rules in general surgery provide also compensations, meaning there is a number of operations you have to perform, a total number. And let's say if you in general surgery are a little bit more specialized in one region, you may compensate to the full number of operation in another field. So let's say maybe it could be an idea for bariatric to say, okay, a minimal number of gastric bypasses. If you have more, you may take compensation from another field of bariatric surgery.
That's a great idea.
But these basic structures and regulations are already put down in the training requirements for general surgery. So the only thing, it's not necessary to invent the wheel by new. We can take all these rules and adapt it to our purposes we need for metabolic and bariatric.
I think Dr. Fried has a question.
Yeah. Good evening. I'm looking forward to have an informal talk with you tomorrow, let's say. I would like just to answer your question. There is also a European chapter of the International Federation for Bariatric Surgery, which is very active in Europe. It issued its guidelines for bariatric and metabolic surgery, which has been published, the second edition last year. And also there is a well-defined structure for being recognized as a center of excellence in bariatric surgery. And there is a definition of number of bariatric procedures, of number of surgeons who should be in a center, who should serve, and also there is firm requirements for qualification of bariatric and metabolic surgeon. So this is already done and established and was published, so I'm looking forward to talk to you and try to find out a solution
Thank you very much.
that the European Surgical Society will just can take and copy-paste the whole thing hopefully in cooperation with this already existing body, which exists since 1996.
Yeah. Perfect, thank you very much. So that's also a reason why we are here, to meet and to talk. So we appreciate this very much, and we can implement these things very easily in our common concept. Thank you.